Hey guys, welcome to Bastion Time. I am your host Bastion. This is Nintendo News. Let's get to that news. First up, we've got an interesting thing from the YouTube channel Unseen64, which sort of looks at beta versions of games and tries to figure out what was in that game that they've cut. And there's lots of ways of finding that stuff out, looking at beta footage, hacking the game and finding leftover stuff in it, and so they've done that with 4 Sword Adventures and found a lot of interesting things. Now, some of these things we know already. Things like there was going to be another game in it, originally called Tetris Trackers, but then changed to Navi Trackers. And the thing that I found most interesting about this is that what I'd always heard is the reason why Navi's Trackers or Tetris Trackers never came out over here is because it had full voice acting in Japanese. It was not like the usual Zelda game where they just make a sound and then the text is, these long sentences or whatever. It was full voice acting. And so the thing that I had heard all of this time, and I'm sure you have too, is that the reason why it never came out over here is because they didn't want to have to translate all of that dialogue and re-record all of that dialogue. And then there was also this complication where you got to choose 2 Japanese characters for your name, and then they would have Tetris synthesize. They had programmed her to be able to synthesize saying those 2 characters, and they were like, how are you going to do that in English? English has, all of these variances for names, and it would just be very difficult to get Tetra to synthesize something like Brian or what have you. Well, it turns out that was already solved. I guess in the beta footage when they were showing the English version that never came out, they were showing the fact that they had changed that to just letting you choose 1 initial for your name. So for me, it would be Mr. B, and then she would say Mr. B, and so that works. So that's very clever. And that doesn't explain, though, why it didn't come out over here. It's very confusing. But in any case, this video is very fascinating. They show you all kinds of interesting things. Things like the fact that the Master Sword was supposed to be in there, and this was supposed to be much more linked to A Link to the Past, but then at some point in development it got changed to being much more associated with Wind Waker and stuff like that. So very interesting stuff. If you want to check that out, there's a link for you down below. Our next story is about The Legend of Zelda Battle Pad, which is an amazing GameCube controller that's Zelda themed and is beautiful, and I want it, but I can't justify buying a new controller for no good reasons, so I don't think I'm gonna buy it, but it is very beautiful, so I wouldn't fault you for buying it. If you want to check out more pictures of it or pre-order it, there's a link for you down below. That is it for this episode of Nintendo News. See you guys tomorrow for more news. Bye guys.